My name is Emily Pyle, LPC-S with the Menninger Clinic. Negative self-talk can be akin to a negative ongoing inner commentary in our brain where we are having negative automatic thoughts on repeat. Things like, I am never going to be good enough, or I am a failure, or I am stupid. Those would be examples of thoughts that would be encompassed in that inner commentary. Why we all struggle with negative self-talk is actually tied to our shared humanity and how our brains are wired. Our brains are wired to have a natural negativity bias, and that is tied to evolutionary advantages. Evolutionarily, it was helpful thousands of years ago for there to be a negative bias for humans so that we were more apt to detect threat in the environment, things like predators and environmental threats. And so it was very advantageous to have that negativity bias. The challenge is that in this day and age, that negativity bias for many of us has extended beyond what we originally needed it for. And so now it's extended to detecting social threat when that might not be present, failures or self-criticism in a way that's not actually accurate or effective. And so the idea with negative self-talk is not eliminating it entirely, recognizing that there is a function to it and it makes sense that it would be there. It's about making sure that it's in its proper place. Negative self-talk has a significant impact on our mental health. It has been correlated with symptoms of depression, including the onset of depression, symptomology with depression, the longevity of depression or duration, and also risk of relapse for depression. It is also tied to symptoms of anxiety, including generalized anxiety and social anxiety, lower self-esteem, and greater psychological distress based on research. And so significant negative impact on mental health. Additionally, beyond mental health issues, there is a phenomenon where negative self-talk can create a negative feedback loop in our minds where the more we're thinking negative thoughts, the more we're going to feel upset or negative about our life. And both of those are going to reinforce each other. More and more negative self-talk begets negative feelings, and that also influences our behaviors. And so, in short, negative self-talk doesn't just influence our inner thought life, it also influences our emotions, our behavior, and also how we come to see ourselves, others, and the world. So I want to start out by sharing that a reframe does not necessarily mean that we're putting a completely positive spin on something and saying that everything's going to be perfect. A reframe is really about coming up with a more accurate and balanced appraisal of a situation that is grounded in reality and more balanced. And so as an example, let's say I made a mistake at work and my negative self-talk that is going on is, I am such an idiot, I am a failure at work, maybe I'm going to get fired. Instead of going in those directions, a reframe might be, I made a mistake. I'm frustrated, which is understandable. I am also not alone in making mistakes. Making mistakes is part of being human. What can I learn from this experience and how can I grow? And so the idea here is that we're slowing down long enough to notice the negative self-talk and taking a moment to assess, is this actually accurate? And is there a more realistic, more balanced way of viewing the situation? Thinking traps in psychology are also known as cognitive distortions. There are many common ones. Some of the most common include all or nothing thinking. This is thinking in black and white terms. So for example, because I made a mistake, I am a complete failure. Takes one situation and taking it to the extreme. Another example would be catastrophizing. This is worst case scenario thinking. And so, for example, this might be because I made a mistake, again, I am going to get fired. That is catastrophizing, worst case scenario. Another one might be overgeneralization. And so let's say I got rejected in a relationship. Overgeneralization would be, because I got rejected in that relationship, now I am destined to be alone. I will not succeed at any relationship. Mental filter is another one. This is where we are sifting through and maybe we have gotten 10 compliments and 1 complaint or challenging statement or criticism, and we really focus only on that 1 complaint or criticism, not the 10 things that were compliments. Another common one is personalization. And so this is taking a situation and assuming that I am to blame. And so let's say my friend seems upset. And so the cognitive distortion here would be, my friend is upset because I did something wrong. And so that's personalizing something that might not have been mine. And so these are some of the more common ones. There are others. And again, the idea here is that all of us fall into these traps. The key idea is that we want to pause. We want to recognize that we are engaging in them. Recognition is the first step towards doing something different. One thing that can be really helpful for giving oneself more grace is to begin adopting a more self-compassionate mindset. And so a really practical way of doing this might be pausing, noticing that one is having a negative cognitive distortion, and taking a moment to ask, would I talk to a friend like this? Is this what I would say to someone that's close to me? Oftentimes, our inner dialogue, our inner self-critic is much harsher than how we would speak to a loved one or a friend. And so taking that moment to recognize that and see if that shifts anything for us in terms of extending grace, and seeing if we're able to challenge that initial thought with, well, if I wouldn't have said it to that person, then why am I saying it to myself? And also, what would I say to someone I love who had this thought? And then repeating that to yourself. Another wonderful concrete practice to start with might be taking a deep breath after you have had the thought, placing your hands over your chest, and with your deep breaths saying, this is a moment of suffering. I recognize that I am having this thought. I'm not the only person who has had this thought. I'm not alone in it. And I'm not going to punish myself. I'm going to treat myself with self-kindness, just like I would with someone else that I love. Being stuck in a negative loop is sometimes called rumination in psychology. There are several practical steps that we can take to combat rumination. The first one is getting physically active, getting out of the immediate environment in which this spiraling is happening. And so this might include going on a walk or stretching or removing oneself from the physical environment in which you've been where this rumination has been happening. Another practical step that can be taken is what we call grounding. And so grounding strategies are really helping to situate you in the present moment mindfully. And so this might include seeing your environment physically and labeling in your mind, what are 5 things that I can see right now? What are 4 things that I can hear? What are 3 things that I can touch? And really trying to get grounded in the present moment. Deep breathing is another one that can be helpful for grounding, and mindfulness meditations are all options. And then another practical strategy that can help is really externalizing these thoughts, the ruminations. And so this might include journaling. talking to a trusted friend or a counselor about the thoughts, because the more we're able to say them out loud, to externalize them, the less likely they are to go so fast and to go unchallenged. And it really helps slow down that process of ruminating. Again, to externalize it, to not be alone in it in our heads. I want to start out by saying that healthier thinking is not about eliminating negative thoughts. It's about changing our relationship to them. And so this involves noticing them, labeling them, and then choosing how we're going to interact with those thoughts, hopefully differently. And so some practical steps include: 1, noticing our thoughts. We can't change something if we're not noticing that it's happening to begin with. And so noticing our thoughts, then labeling our thoughts. And so this is where we might label a cognitive distortion, like this is catastrophizing, or this is me mind reading again. Next is where we would want to consider alternatives. What is the evidence for this thought and against this thought? What would I tell a close friend in this situation? So generating some alternatives. And then we are hopefully from that generating alternatives, we might come up with a statement that is a challenge statement that's realistic, balanced, one that we can realistically cling to as an alternative that we recite to ourselves. We want to do this in a self-compassionate way, in a mindful way. And we also may need to seek support in this process. And so we may want to involve trusted loved ones, mental health providers, as coming up with healthier thinking is a process, and it's kind of like building a muscle. We don't build a muscle overnight. And so it does take some repetition. It does sometimes take some coaching, some support. And it is also about rewiring the brain in a lot of ways. And so that takes time, and it's time worth taking. You are not your worst thought, and our thoughts are not facts. They come and go like weather. They are events, mental events, and they are not everything. They are not full reality. And so we want to approach them in a balanced way with some healthy curiosity and caution, and also recognize that just because our brain is generating an automatic negative thought doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean we have to run with it either. We have a choice in how we interact with our thoughts, and there are practical steps that we can take to help us to have a better, more balanced inner thought life. And we can do this in a self-compassionate way. You can start small. You can start with some of the steps that I've shared today in this video, and there is hope that it can get better, and that these thoughts do not have to dictate your life.